Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar sponsored by VaporBeast, Unleash the Beast. My name is Norm Bauer. I'm going to be your presenter tonight, and I'm going to share a little bit more about what the reasons are behind this particular class and the other classes that we're going to be doing. Meanwhile, I see people still coming on, and we thank you so much for that. And if you have any questions, by all means, just go ahead and put them down there in the chat room. If it's something specific that I think should be addressed immediately, I will probably do that. Otherwise, I'll probably just kind of hold on to them until the end. But meanwhile, we have several dozen people that are just popping on right now, and I'm giving everyone as much time as I could. But let's go ahead and get started. So let me tell you a little bit about me, not because I'm really that important, other than the fact that you need to know that I know what I'm doing. My name is Norm Bauer. I know it's spelled a little bit different, and I started a company called Vape Mentors in July of 2013, so I'm going on almost 4 years. I was not a smoker, and I'm a business strategist, and that's what I did for many years before walking into a vape shop one time and saying, what the hell is a vape shop? So 1 year, several years later, I've developed online programs called Vape 1, Vape 2, and Vape 3. We have one called the Master Summit. I have written a book called Vapreneur. I host a radio show called Vape Radio. I think we're posting number 88 or about to post number 88. And I speak internationally. I spoke over in Europe in 3 different locations, and I might be doing it again this year. And really what I am, guys, is I'm a business guy, and I've worked with over 40 different businesses all over the world. Most of them probably people like you, brick and mortar locations, a lot of online shops, some hardware developers, importers, exporters. There's virtually no segment of the industry that I haven't touched in one way or another. And one of the things I've been blessed to have done over the years is I have some amazing resource partners. And I always say I'm not always the sharpest tool in the shed, but I know all the sharp tools. And so that's a little bit about who I am. And about VaporBeast, last time I did this one in January, I was blessed to be doing it jointly with Tim Campbell, who is the founder of VaporBeast, who did that in 2009. And this is a company that I've admired for quite some time since I started recognizing that they were significant in the industry. They are far and away the leaders when it comes to distribution and wholesaling of vaping products. And they actually just got purchased by a company called Turning Point Brands, which they're leaders in the industry. So now they're going through a little bit of a transition from being what you would call solopreneurship, although it wasn't just a solopreneur. It was actually lots and lots of people involved with the formulation and the running of VaporBeast, but now it's owned by a much larger entity. And the pictures there might look a little bit different than what you're normally used to seeing, because they actually started instituting a dress policy, which I find very, very admirable, because the industry has been very unprofessional over the years, and it's good to see that we have professionalism coming into the industry, just like a lot of them. And I've been to more events than I can care to count, and some of them are just parties looking for a place and an excuse to happen, but I'm finding a lot of the wholesaling and a lot of the events that are going on right now are more professional than what they've been in the past. But VaporBeast right now, they're the largest distributor of VaporBeast, to my knowledge, in the world. They have thousands and thousands of SKUs. They are a value-add vape supplier, which means that they can help you grow your business as well. And they were the ones who connected with me and said, Norm, we want to do webinars for our clients, our customers. What should we do it on, and can you do it? And of course, I'm honored by that, and that's kind of where we are right now. And what we did is that we put together a workshop series based on what you guys out there want or need. The first one we did was understanding trends. This one, of course, is how to attract new customers, because you're going to find in just a few moments that that is the lifeblood of any industry, not just this one. The next one we're going to do in about 60 days is going to be about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the Fda regulations, and more importantly, how do you prepare for the future? The deeming regulations were vague for a long time. There's still a lot more questions and answers, and there's a lot of things that might be changing the deemings, including the Cole-Bishop Amendment and a lot of other things that are at play. So we're going to be doing that in the future, and then 2 months later that we're going to be talking about marketing ideas. And and determining the right product mix and so forth and so on. So tonight we're going to be talking about attracting new customers, and what we did, or what VaporBeast did, is that they put together a survey, and they asked many thousands of people, what are the ways that you have used to attract customers before and also right now? And that is a lot of what this content is based on. So I want you to understand, this is not just coming from a singular mouth here. This is coming from the mouths of many hundreds of people. And there are definite trends, definite commonalities that I see time and time again. And so this is really what you're going to be learning tonight, guys, is that you're going to be hearing a lot of really good information on not just getting new customers, but also keeping the ones that you have. So again, it's going to be interactive. Feel free to share your comments. I'm doing this solo tonight, so I don't have the benefit of having anyone kind of as my sidekick here. So later on, as we get questions, and hopefully we will, I'm going to go ahead and go through the list and kind of go from there. So tonight we're going to be talking about strategies. And understand something, no business, vaping, cars, insurance, restaurants, can only rely on what you have in place right now. You have to always be out there prospecting. You always have to be out there marketing yourself, and understand that there is a difference between marketing and advertising. Those two words are confused. Those two words are sometimes used interchangeably, but they are absolutely different in both their intention and also their execution. So when it comes to prospecting, this is the big picture. This is how you go out and develop your core competencies, and how you go out and articulate your unique selling proposition. These are all the things that marketing are, or is, and the channel that helps you execute that is the advertising. And there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about, again, over the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to be talking about social media, newspapers, trade magazines, events, radios, and several other variations thereof. It's all about the customer. If you don't get that now, you better, because a lot of people, when they get into this industry, it's a labor of passion. I get that. I have talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the last 4 years, and I know that this is a very passionate industry, because we have people whose lives have been changed because they were able to quit smoking. And you suddenly want to change the world, and you want everyone to see what you see, and drink the Kool-Aid that you've drank. And I mean Kool-Aid in a good way, not in a bad way. But this is not about you guys. This is not about you. This is about the customer. And so you must always make sure that you're aware of that. And the survey says, just like the old television show, the survey says social media is king. Based on all the many hundreds of responses that we asked when it comes to how you attract new customers and how you keep new customers, social media is far and away the biggest thing to use. I'm going to say things in quotation marks simply because it is a thing. It doesn't do anything until you do something to it. A car is there to look at and is pretty and everything, but until you get in and drive it and modify it and use it to go from point A to point B, it's nothing more than a vehicle. And that's really social media at its core. There's lots of different ways that you can integrate social media, which we're going to get to in a moment. But really, when it comes to the most effective for this industry, time and time again, Instagram is the top dog. They are far and away the most popular, far away the most effective social media vehicle, and you should be posting on a regular basis, which I'm going to get to in a moment when it comes to frequency. Facebook contests and posts, there are certain things that you can and cannot do. Twitter, not quite so big, nor Google+. And we understand that there are limitations to what you can and cannot do in this industry. eBay has shut people down. PayPal has shut people down. Facebook has shut me down. I don't sell any physical product. I sell information and education, but yet I am not permitted to sell Vape Mentors information or course material on Facebook. And one of these days I might call them to task and bring in my legal team and see what we can't do about that, because it doesn't seem like they should be able to restrict us. But there's other ways of using social media that are much more obvious. And common sense is not always that common. The things that we take for granted, the things that we think that everyone understands, is not necessarily true. And here we have a list of some of the things that you should be implementing into your business and making sure the information is up to date and accurate. One is our good friend Google. You know, our friends at Google are wonderful when it comes to giving you free advertising. You don't necessarily have to be using Google AdWords. You can be just taking advantage of the fact that when people are looking for a vape shop in your area, they will find you. They will find you as long as you put in the right information. It's like the old acronym, garbage in, garbage out. If you put the wrong information down, then they're not going to get the right information out. And so if you don't have your map up there, if you don't have your information accurately, if you don't have your operating hours and your telephone number and your website, then shame on you, because you're just doing yourself a disservice. Another big factor when it comes to the most direct and most obvious ways of social media is Yelp. You know, Yelp has been out for many, many years, and people Yelp a lot of things before they participate. Restaurants, you know, any type of social events, they will always check the Yelp reviews to find out what people think about it. And you can be sure that if someone is in your town and they're looking for a vape shop, they're going to be asking, which is the best vape shop in town? And that's why it's very important to read and encourage good reviews. Make sure people are giving you good, my apologies for the misspelling there, make sure you have good Google reviews, and make sure you have good Yelp reviews at the same time. Every once in a while, you're going to cross someone. For some reason, they're going to get angry at you, and they might put some bad things down there. Do not take it personally unless you did something personal to those persons, which is not very likely. Usually it's just a bad experience, and that can be caused from a lot of different factors. But make sure that when people come in and they say, hey, you know what, John, I love your shop, I'm going to say go in here, great. Would you mind going on our Google page and just go ahead and give us a review? Because again, you can have some bad blights on your market, but or on your review. But if that is overcome with positive, then it becomes less and less important. Just like a credit report. If you have 3 items on your credit report and 1 of them is bad and 2 are good, then that's going to knock you down by 33%. But if you have 100 things on your credit report and you've got 1 bad thing, then it becomes just one of those things that happens, and it becomes less important. So that's the way it is when it comes to positive reviews versus negative reviews. One of the things that I have been really pushing my clients over the years is use videos. And what I do is that most of the business I do is remotely, and I will basically consult with my clients via primarily Skype. But there has been many people I've worked with on a personal basis or gone to visit them when I was in their state or in their city. And one of the best things to do is use videos. And I will be in John's vape shop. I'll just use that as an example. And invariably I will go over and I will talk to the customers. Hey, let me ask you, why are you here? What do you like about this shop? And they will tell me, hey, you know what, John's an awesome guy. Their prices are great. I always feel like I'm welcome here. I never feel like I'm forced to buy something. They give me education. I say, that's awesome. Would you mind if I videotaped you saying that? And I've never had anyone say no. So absolutely, sure. I'll say, give me 30, 45 seconds. You just go over there with your phone, iPhone, Android, it really doesn't matter, and basically just take a little clip. So John, tell us, or Mary, or Fred, or whatever the person's name is, tell us, why do you come to John's vape shop? Or tell me what you think about this place. And they will tell you, because people love to be heard. People love to be significant, and they love to be edified. So, use video properly, and you're going to get a lot of value out of that. This is just a nice infographic, and again, you're going to get a copy of this later, so you don't have to worry about reading every little blurb that's there. But this is just a list of the top 4 places that people are using social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Now, for me personally, LinkedIn has been a wonderful, wonderful source of business, but my business is different. I'm dealing in the B2B world. For those of you out there who are in the B2C world, LinkedIn might not be that significant when it comes to selling retail product. But Let's just say the time comes for you to start thinking about an exit strategy, or let's just say that maybe things are not doing so well and you're thinking about maybe looking for a partner or a collaborator or something like that. That's where LinkedIn could be very beneficial to you. And I'm a huge believer of collaboration and of partnering and basically everyone working together, because the truth is that the wild, wild west is no more in the vaping field, guys. It's now a collaborative effort. We have to work together. And just looking at some of the questions that come in. Oh, we have a gentleman on here from Colombia, the country of Colombia. Well, welcome. Hola. And we got a couple of other comments. So again, if you have any other comments, just go ahead and put them down in the chat window. So again, you're going to be able to get a copy of this tomorrow, but these are the sites that are normally the top dogs. Now, I have a educational program called Vape U, as in the letter U, and so we did one a couple of years ago, and we did a whole segment on social media, and one of our instructors was Media Hub, Ray Yang. Maybe some of you know Raymond. And these are the criteria, the guidelines of how often they suggest that you post. For Facebook, you should do it 3 times a week to daily, Monday through Friday. For Twitter, you can almost not overdo Twitter because you're limited by characters, and so they're just very quick blurbs, although Twitter is not a major player in the vaping world. Instagram is. So you should make it a point, you should make it a commitment, just like every day you come in and you make coffee, and every day you come in and you empty the trash and you clean the bathroom. You know, every day you get in the habit of doing these things. So designate a person, probably one person, to Instagram at least once a day, maybe twice a day, no more than 3 times a day. And, you know, develop that strategy in advance. Put it into a HubSpot type of agenda, where you can actually just schedule it all on Monday, and then that way you don't have to worry about it on a daily basis. So that's what social media is all about. So let's talk about some of the other ways that people are able to retain and to grow their clientele. If you are not using any type of loyalty program, again, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm a huge fan of loyalty programs. You probably participate in loyalty programs through a lot of other things that you don't even give any thought to. I used to go to a lot of movies, so I would have a movie card, and whenever I'd go there, they'd give me credit. When I have a certain dollar amount, I'd get free popcorn or free drinks or free this or free that. And so that's how they engendered my loyalty. Well, it's no different in the vaping industry. You have AppCard, you have 5-Star, you have Belly, and there's variations on these. Some of them will employ a card, some of them will be all electronic. You just have to scan them. But the goal is to be able to let people know that you recognize and appreciate them being loyal to you. Another loyalty program that's more of a personal one is refer a friend discount. Mary comes into your shop once a month or once a week, or however often it is. And you say to her, Mary, you probably know a lot of smokers that have been wanting to quit and start vaping, and I'm willing to give you a 10% discount on your next purchase, and them a 10% discount on their next purchase as well. So, people love helping other people. It's just kind of part of our nature. And, granted, there's some selfish people out there, but for the most part, people love supporting and helping other people, especially if they're trying to kick the habit, because, many people who are in the vaping industry can remember what it was like when they were users of the analogs. Okay, let's talk about some simple things. Again, you're not going to hear, well, you might hear some revelations, some aha things that make you go, wow, why didn't I think about that? But for the most part, a lot of business is the same, whether you sell vape supplies or shoes or food or cars. It really doesn't matter. And there's certain commonalities to all businesses. But signage is one that many times people don't recognize or appreciate how important it is. How important is it to let people know that, hey, there's a vape shop here? Because I've seen some that are kind of stuck off into an alleyway. I've seen some that are in very hard to find locations. Over the years when I started my business early on, it was almost exclusively on helping people open vape shops. And so they were looking for their first location. So we would walk through the whole process of dealing with the city and dealing with landlords and dealing with grand openings and dealing with all kinds of things like that. you know, the market's a little bit different now. And Shirley asked a really good question about stop smoking signs, and we're going to get to that in just a moment, Shirley. The answer is yes, you can use a no smoking sign. So when it comes to signage, you know, be sure that you obviously stay in harmonious, you know, use the same type of signage that everyone else has in your center, assuming that you have a center. But make sure that you have something in your window and have something on your door and have something above your door and above it. You know, make sure that you try to put as much signage out there if at all possible. If you can get your name out there on the kiosk in front of the shopping center, that's always a great thing. The stop smoking thing that I put here comes from one of the respondents to the VaporBeast survey. And they said that they put a sign out there that says stop smoking. So the question is, in your mind, are you claiming that this is a smoking cessation device? The answer is no. You are basically saying, ladies and gentlemen, stop smoking. It's what they call an interrupt. And in the world of marketing, there's 4 I's. There's the interrupt, the intrigue, the inform, and the invite. So this is the interrupt. If you say in a sign, stop smoking, people are going to say, okay, how? Makes them curious, also intrigued. And so now they come in, and then you inform them and invite them to participate in the world of vaping. Location, of course, is very important. If you're not in a good location, then you know you might want to consider moving to a new location when that time comes. Sign spinners do work. They're silly, they're irritating, sometimes they're unsightly, but the truth is that they have been proven to work, just like those blow-up things with a fan, the little squiggly guy that basically is encouraging people to pay attention to what that squiggly guy is saying. So, you know, again, not everything in business, not everything in marketing, not everything in vaping is rocket science. Sometimes it's just good logic and being in the right place at the right time, or putting yourself in the right place at the right time. Community engagement. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this because this is really important. And understand that you can preach to the masses, which means the other vaping community, but there's a whole sector out there that is outside the vaping community. And these are people who are potential customers but might not be customers now. I have worked with chambers of commerce for many years. Prior to getting into vaping, I did business startup and business acceleration workshops, and we teamed with cities. And I worked with you know, about 8 or 9 different cities throughout Southern California, along with their chambers and their city councils and their economic development agencies and so forth and so on. So there's a lot to be said to sometimes getting outside your world of vape, and even, you know, even it might be a little bit costly to join a chamber of commerce, it's not a bad idea to go to their events and say, you know, when someone says, so what is it you do? Well, you know, I'm in a vape shop. And again, there's more to it than that. There's the proper way that you articulate it, which, you know, we can talk about another time. You can conduct your own educational programs. I'm an educator. I'm a mentor, and that's why my company is called Vape Mentors and not Vape Consulting, because I think consulting doesn't really express what I do. I mentor people. And when it comes to your shop should be a forum. Your shop should be a resource for education to help people stop smoking. And one way to do that is to have a vape intro night where you invite smokers to come in and educate them. Because understand something, guys, you might take all this for granted because you've been doing it for a while, or maybe you're a millennial and you don't mind the whole, you know, tearing you know, your coils apart and rebuilding them and, you know, putting drops in there. But to a lot of people, this is voodoo. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand why it works. They understand that it could possibly help them stop smoking, but a lot of times they just don't want to deal with the inconvenience of dealing with something mechanical that, quote unquote, might blow up based on the media. We're not going to get off on that tangent. But the reality of it is that you can put together workshops, you can put together vape intro nights, and invite anyone that comes in with a pack of cigarettes, and they leave them there in your trash can. You'll give them 20% off a starter kit, and teach them and nurture them. It's no different than the school system, where you start off with kids in kindergarten, then elementary school, then junior high, and so forth. It's exactly the same process in business. You have to start them at the beginning, the old, you know, crawl, walk, run scenario, And the best way to start is just by saying, bring in your package of cigarettes, and we're going to introduce you to the world of vaping. You're probably going to start with a regular, an e-leaf or something very simple, right for a beginning, and just kind of go from there. So that's kind of one of the things that you should definitely be doing. And for those of you who have loyal customers, and I'm going to assume that's most of you, have an ongoing customer appreciation night. I have a client in Indiana. Yeah, I know all about that state. They got battered pretty badly by the government of Indiana, but justice is finally turning around. But they hold a every 3 to 6 months customer appreciation night, and they even did it during the cold. They had a tent brought in with some heaters, and they have some customers that are musicians, and so they came in and they entertained, and they brought in food, and they gave away prizes, and so they do this several times a year, and the people in the community love it. It's a small community. It's not a very urban area, and you should do that. I encourage you to do that. Friday nights are usually the best. Make sure you give it enough advance notice. Make sure you get it posted everywhere and anywhere you can. Encourage everyone to share it like crazy, and give people an incentive. When you come to our customer appreciation night, we're going to give you, we're going to have a drawing for, a Sigelli. We're going to do a drawing for whatever, a month's worth of free liquids, whatever the case might be. But people are very receptive to bribery, so don't be opposed to using bribery. A new vapor workshop. This was just sent to me earlier today, and again, it kind of edifies the whole thing. New vapor workshops. It's basically free. You offer education. You demonstrate the product, and it's kind of like, in the last couple of years, I've become a more proficient and a more experienced traveler, but up until a few years ago, it was very intimidating to me, the whole process of going through passport control and traveling to a strange city and dealing with languages you don't understand and currency you don't understand. And after doing that now for several years, it's no big deal. I fly, usually somewhere once or twice a month, and now it's not a problem. So the intimidation, the fear is gone. It's no different in the vaping world, guys. So you need to just basically get them through the process, and once they understand that that these are for their benefit, then they're going to really get excited. I'm reading a note here that says, let me read exactly. We have some chatter going on about Colombia, which my apologies, I got a little bit sidetracked by it, but one of the person does a vapor bingo night that apparently was a big hit. That's a new one, Shirley. That's a new one. I've not heard of bingo, so you have my email address, and so tell me exactly, what happens. Did you use regular bingo cards, and when someone gets bingo, I'm assuming that whoever won the game would probably get some type of freebie or some type of discount. So that sounds exciting. Bingo for you young guys is probably not as exciting as it is for those who maybe been seeing it back for several decades. More good stuff. Be sure that you do an honest assessment of your business. And again, we're not going to get sidetracked on business strategies because this is really focused tonight on customer retention and customer acquisition. But look at what works and look at what doesn't work. And we're going to get to this in a later screen when we talk about data and monitoring and tracking. But you as an owner of a company should be ongoing evaluating your processes and make sure that people are in the right place, make sure you have a good labor force, good training. If your people are not representing you properly, the only person that you can blame is yourself, because you picked the wrong person and you trained them improperly or not at all. So I always have recommended that you hire someone based on personality and work ethics and honesty more than on skills, because skills can be taught, but certain factors are just inherent in people and they're not going to be able to change. And what I recommend you do is make a list of 5 things that maybe don't work as well as you think they should in your shop that you need to improve. And go and have a team meeting. You as an owner, I'm going to assume or make some presumptions that you might be an owner. the more honest and open you are, the more transparent you are. Employees love that because they want to feel like they're part of you and part of the process and part of the company. So, you should probably have ongoing regular meetings at least once a month, if not more often, and just say, guys, I'm asking your opinion. What are the things that you think that we need to do around here? And I want you to write those on a piece of paper and give them to me. And you don't have to sign it. It's going to be anonymous. And we're going to discuss these things. And we're going to come up with ways to improve. And imagine that you did that every month for 6 months. How much better will you be, 6 months down the road? And it's not rocket science. Just do it. Just execute it. The biggest reasons that most ideas fail is not because the idea is bad, it's because it was not executed properly or at all. So again, just make sure that you do an honest assessment of what you're doing and make sure that you do it more better. Here's some ideas that came in from the respondents about how to get new customers and how to keep the customers that you have. And one of them said, or actually several of them said, that they have a day every week where they offer new juices. And in this particular example, New Juice Monday, you bring a brand new line in, and when people come in, you're going to allow them to get that as a discount. And even though you can't, quote unquote, offer free samples, you can still offer samples, and you can give them an incentive to purchase that particular flavor. You're going to see a lot of changes in the flavor offerings in the years to come. We're not going to get sidetracked by that now, but we will focus on that in the next workshop when we talk about the FDA and the states and all the different things that are going on right there. But you're going to see a list of liquids that's going to be changing as far as there's going to be much less of them in the future than there are today, and certainly more than there were in the past. But be careful about being the low price leader. A lot of the respondents basically said that they get new people by offering low prices, which I think is fine as long as you can compensate that in volume. But I am not a fan of being the low price leader. I've been preaching this for years, even before I got into vaping. I've always said, there's only one Walmart. Walmart is the low price leader, and that's what they do. They might operate on a very, very skinny margin, just like Costco, and they make it up in quantity. And so don't try to be the undercutter. You survive and you thrive and you grow based on service and a lot of other factors that don't necessarily have anything to do with low prices. Pardon me. The whole world of clones is still there, but not like it was in years past. 2, 3, 4 years ago, you saw a lot of crappy imports coming in from overseas. Now, I think most shops out there want to stick with and do stick with authentics, and I think that that's probably your best course of action. You're just going to get better customer retention. You are going to get much less complaints, and it's a higher quality. And price differential is not quite what it used to be. The parity is getting a lot closer because China's becoming a little bit more capitalistic, and so their prices over there are not what they were maybe 2 or 3 years ago. How many is enough? And we're talking about liquids here, and I have had this conversation endlessly over the years. And a lot of times when people want to open up a shop, they think that you need to have dozens and dozens of different brands of liquids, and the answer is no, you do not. I normally say you want about 12 to 20 lines. That's brands, and you do not have to carry every flavor within every brand. You might have a flavor, or might have a brand that you like, and you might only want to carry 2 other flavors, and they have another 3 that you say, no thanks. So this is not a game of he who dies with the most liquids wins. This is a game of quality over quantity. And one of the persons who responded actually has 170 flavors. I think that's foolish. I mean, even though the general accepted criteria for longevity of liquids is 2 years, I think realistically most liquids are going to start denigrating within 6 months, certainly 12 months. I actually just returned from the East Coast. I was in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland, and I visited the most upscale, high-end, magnificent e-liquid production facility I've ever seen. These guys actually come from the tobacco world, where they are the leaders in the tobacco flavoring world, and they've been in business for about 40 years, and they've been in the e-liquid flavoring industry for about the last 4, actually maybe a little bit longer. But they built this facility from the ground up, and they bring in raw material, the raw nicotine, and they dilute it there. And they have a 200-gallon, 200-gallon vat of propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, and it was like amazing seeing such quantity. And so the point I'm making is that even they tell their customers it's not about having the most flavors, it's about having the highest quality and those that sell. So, just focus on that, guys, and you're going to be able to keep a happy customer. Because on the other hand, this is not what you want. I have been in shops that look almost like this, where they have glass cabinets with hardly anything in it. They've got cabinets in the back behind the counter and off to the side with just a few things. And the question is that how many products should you carry, not just liquids, and how much square footage should you have? And I've seen behemoths that are 3,000 plus square feet, and I've seen vape shops that are 500, 600, 700 square feet. And it's really not about the size; it's about the business that you get based on the square footage, the ROI. And I've seen shops that are 700 or 800 square feet that are doing $35,000, $40,000 a month. So don't necessarily look for the largest square footage, but make sure that it's set up properly. This concept of feng shui is very, very real. And I've been in shops that just are devoid of any type of emotional connection, and that's why they suffer. And I've been in other shops that I walk into and I go, oh my gosh, this is really awesome, because it's themed properly, it's branded properly, it's got the right display, it's got enough stuff in the display case so that it's not overwhelming. It doesn't look like a pawn shop with stuff overflowing, but yet it it looks like it has enough variety for everyone. So make sure that you focus on your inventory selection and keep what you have, and continue to expand it and always be on top of the new products lines. Let's talk about some what we call traditional marketing channels. And again, these are marketing channels that are executed via advertising. And in this wonderful world we live of 2017, there are some tried and true things that have been used for over 100 years. Radio is coming up on that, and I have had several clients use radio. Some of them have been more effective than others. I have a radio show myself, but that's a podcast, so that's not part of this conversation. When we talk about radio, we're talking about terrestrial as an air-driven radio, not a podcast. We're talking about radio that you can listen to in your car anywhere. And I have lots of clients that have been very pleased with radio. I think it's more applicable in a rural type of an area. In a city area like Los Angeles, I think it's a waste of money. Newspapers, a little bit too wide of a distribution. There's a saying that I've used in coaching for many years, and that is, you should hunt with a harpoon, not with a net. So rather than trying to engage everyone and anyone in the world to be your customers, you should focus in on where your customers are and finding them, and just bring them in one at a time, and make them part of your loyal following. Distribute flyers. You are presumably in a brick and mortar location. You're not always busy. Make your flyers are cheap. Even color flyers are cheap. Make yourself hundreds of flyers and just distribute them. You can take them to your neighbors, and you can say, hey, you know what? You got a dry cleaner here. I'm sure you have people come in. They talk to you about smoking or about vaping, and we want to let you know that we're offering a discount because you're one of our neighbors, and encourage them to come over to buy from you. And so distribution of flyers is always a good idea. Magazines. Just so happens that I write for the largest magazine in the world, which is Vape magazine. I've been their senior writer for 3.5 years now. But I also write for several others, including Vapor Voice and Smoke and Vapor and others. And so magazines do work. Again, you have a more focused clientele, and you're dealing in the B2B market more than the B2C market, but you are getting a little bit of B2C out there as well. And then the question of billboards comes up. And billboards, I think, again, are more applicable in a rural area versus an urban area like a city. You know, you take a city of, say, I'm going to use $30,000 as a benchmark. So, you know, you take a relatively small town of 30,000 people, most people will know each other. It's easier to generate word of mouth. And in an environment like that, a billboard would probably be a lot more cost effective and also give you more ROI than it would if you were in a much, much larger area. Let's talk for a moment about your passion. You know, it's interesting, guys, because I've been in this industry now for almost 4 years, and this industry brings out more passion in people than anything I think I've ever seen, for several reasons. One is because people are so happy that they've been able to kick the tobacco fixation, sometimes the nicotine fixation, and so they want to change the world. You know, it's like someone discovering sex and they suddenly want everyone else to know how wonderful it is, and that's just the way it is in this world of vaping. And so it's great to share your passion, but let's make sure that when you execute that via a shop, don't lose sight of your passion. Make sure you understand it's not just about technology. Don't scare them off, especially when they're newbies. You know, as I said just a little while ago, the reason that most people don't vape is because they're intimidated. They see these people walking around with these devices and they think that's too complicated. You know, there's a lot of people who still use very basic cell phones, you know, Blackberries or, you know, clamshells, and they don't want to deal with smartphones because they get intimidated by it. And we see it in automobiles, we see it in televisions, we see it in anything and everything that we're surrounded by, because, you know, a lot of manufacturers, they think that if I can offer a feature, I should offer a feature, and that's not always the case. So when it comes to the products that you carry and how you teach your staff and how you teach your customer, you have to be very patient. You have to be very, very patient, because you know, it's very easy to say the wrong thing and you know, get someone PO'd at you. Meanwhile, you just have to nurture them along by encouraging them and letting them know that yes, we get the fact that you are a little bit unsure about all this, but you know what? I was unsure too. You know, if you use one of the closing techniques that's been used forever, feel, felt, found, you know what? I know exactly how you feel. I felt the exact same way, but this is what I find. And so people can now relate to that. You put it in very practical terms for them. So make them feel welcome. You know, again, not rocket science. When someone walks into the door, say hello. Ideally, everyone say hello, just like walking into the Cheers bar. Norm! You know, you give everyone a, you know, hey, John, welcome back. How's everything? You know, what can we do for you today? So people love to be personalized. You know, I've been a gym member for decades, and one gym I used to go to, I loved because I'd walk in and they'd greet me by name because they knew, they cared. Whereas most of the gyms I've been to in my life over the last, you know, 40 years, you're just a number. You know, they scan your card and they barely look at you, and they certainly don't remember you or remember your name. But you know, boy, I tell you, nothing would please me more than to walk into my gym in the morning and have someone say, hey, Norm, glad to see you today. Happy Friday. But the reality is it's not going to happen. But it can happen in your shop, guys. It can happen in your shop. So it's really about making sure that your people are directed in the proper way and that they follow your good example. Service is key. Again, not just in this business, but in every business. So here's just some bullet points. Most of these you know. Some of these we've already touched on. Make sure you are proactive rather than reactive. Make sure that you ask questions. Don't just talk, because, you know, if you ask the right questions, people will tell you exactly how to be sold. And so, you know, once upon a time, you just open your door and the floodgates open, you're racking in the money, but that's just not the case anymore. The good news and the bad news is that consumers have choices. You have choices. You know, you want to go out and buy a car. Where's the first place you go? Online. You check Kelley Blue Book. You check, you know, various other, you know, Carfax. You check all these different places to find out how much that car, quote unquote, should cost me or how much it's costing them. So the consumer has so much power today, and that's what has fostered, of course, the Amazons and the eBays and the thousands and thousands of you know, B2C sites that are out there right now, including in this industry. And even though you think sometimes you can't compete with online, you absolutely can. But you don't necessarily have to compete based on price. It's about competing based on service, because they're not going to get that kind of service usually online. You know, make sure you thank them when they're done. Hey, Mary, thank you so much for your business. We really appreciate that. We hope you can join us when we have our customer appreciation night next month, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I always say that there's no such thing as a stupid question. There's only an unanswered question. So, you know, when people come in and you hear the same thing over and over and over again, yeah, we get that, but get used to it. It's no difference than, you know, when you go into a restaurant and you ask the waitress or waiter, so what is the soup of the day? Well, they've probably told hundreds of people already what the soup of the day is, but it doesn't matter because tomorrow it's going to be different. And so that's just the way it works. And make sure you train your people properly. Again, your people, your sales staff is a reflection of you. They are a mirror image of you, whether you want them to be or not. So it's important that they have a dress code. I'm a big believer of using some type of personalized or branded uniforms. Something simple as a pullover shirt I think is great. I think that setting a higher class example by having collared shirts of some sort, even if it's like a polo shirt, is a good idea, because again, you want to deal with the masses of the industry. And right now the masses have been the millennials, but the big market that's not quite as tapped is the Gen X's and the baby boomers. So make sure that you know how to cater and relate to them. When you sell someone a product, you better understand it's not just about what's happening on that day. It's about your customer's lifetime value. Just like people in our lives, just like people that we love. It's not just about the love that you give them today, but it's about the love that you give them tomorrow and all the days going forward. And it's no different in business. You know, people will go into a shop and they will continue to go into that shop as long as they feel welcome. When something happens, or if something happens and suddenly that trust is gone, boom. You haven't just lost a sale, guys. You have lost many, many, many sales down the roads. And we understand the whimsy of this business. It's unfortunately not loyalty driven, but it can be engendered if you teach people about how to be loyal to you by giving them a reason to be loyal to you. Today we live in a data-driven world. You know, big brother, big data is everywhere, and so it's important that you track what sells, track what doesn't sell, track where people are coming from, track where, you know, everything else like that. And of course, you know, that's what made VaporBeast and is making VaporBeast the power that they are. They have access to lots and lots and lots of data. So those of you who are on this call right now are here at the invite, at the behest, at the suggestion of VaporBeast. So use them, call your rep and ask them, what are the products that are selling in my area or in my region or in my state or whatever the case might be? And, you know, it's a shame that you have to kind of be in that mix as well, but you definitely need to know if you know, the SWAT 100 is the hot product and everyone around you has the SWAT 100, but you don't, you are going to lose business. So you need to at least keep some SWAT 100s in stock, but always be looking for innovative product. And there's a lot of things out there right now, guys. I'm intimately and personally involved with a couple of those products right now that are quote unquote on the market in time for deemings, but they aren't really fully launched. And so you're going to be seeing them in the future. And so, you know what products are trending and know what products are not, because getting rid of excess e-liquid is not that challenging, but getting rid of excess hardware is very challenging and very expensive because no one wants to buy anything that's considered to be obsolete. Use your intuition, but don't rely just on your intuition. You know, when you see things happening, dig a little deeper, a little deeper, a little deeper. If you hear things, you know, and for those of you who are women or females on the phone right now, and you know, women have notoriously been a little bit more attentive when it comes to intuition and paying attention to things. So, you know, pay attention and make sure that you make note of the things that are going on in your shop and capitalize on them what you can. Tap into distributors, read trade journals. You know, a little pitch for Vape magazine. I've been writing for them for 3.5 years. I've written pretty close to 100. I think I'm at about 90 right now, so probably by the end of the year I will have written 100 articles for them. And again, I'm not a technician. I'm a business strategist. And I have a couple of articles coming on that talk about the future direction of e-liquids, because this is a subject that's very close to my heart, because I'm an educator and, you know, I teach the masses, and this is why people come and they purchase our educational programs, because, you know, we follow stuff like that. We look at the 30,000-foot view, and we also look at the 30-foot view. And there's a lot of great services like eSig Intelligence, which is based, you know, internationally. It's based overseas with offices throughout the world. But they're very high end. They're not for the average vape shop, or certainly not for the consumer, but they do a wonderful, wonderful job at consolidating, you know, data that's out there. Okay, we are coming to the end, and I'm gonna just kind of leave this. Let me just take a real quick second here at the questions. And okay, so I have some questions, and I'm going to get to those in a moment, but let me just kind of finish up here. So put a note on your calendar, May 25th. I know it's close to Memorial Day, but it's not interfering with Memorial Day. Our sessions are usually on a Thursday, so this is probably the Thursday before Memorial Day. So, and at that one, we're going to be talking about FDA regulations, preparing for the future. I will probably have a guest on, and I've got access to some pretty awesome people. I've done a lot of FDA webinars over the last 3 years. I'd say probably at least a dozen. And so I've got access to some very, very brilliant people who can kind of tell you where we are today and where we might be heading down the road. So just kind of keep your eyes out, and as we get into May, VaporBeast will be sending out some surveys and maybe asking some questions of you in regard to the FDA. You know, how are you dealing with FDA questions, and what are your concerns for the future? So that's kind of what's coming up. And of course, this is not my show. This is actually not VaporBeast show. This is your show, ladies and gentlemen. So this is all about you. And if you have comments, if you have suggestions, norm@vapementors.com. If you would like the replay of the one we did in January, that is available, and we can send that link to you as well, and just let us know that you would like that one. And that was about the trends. So let me take a look at the questions here. And I may turn on the microphone, but I see that we're almost at an hour. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maybe grab like 3 good questions out of here. And if you have any more, just go ahead and let me know. So we got a list of the different states. We have our friend from Cartagena, Colombia. We have a comment that #1 has been Google SEO. Updated info has been critical. Boy, thank you so much for mentioning that. One of our students tonight is basically saying it's really important that the information that's within Google for Google Maps and for Yelp is information. The question was asked about, would you recommend a stop smoking sign? And I say yes. We do have to evolve from smoking to vaping and beyond. So this is why I want you to become a loyal follower of these webinars, guys, because this is not a stationary business at all. As a matter of fact, in 40+ years of entrepreneurship, I've never seen an industry as dynamic as this. It's so volatile. It's so changing, which is very exciting, but scary as hell. And so that's just the way it is. All right. So one of the persons who is on the class right now moved their original store, and it says moving our original store was expensive yet worth every penny in increasing business. So that is something that we're not going to really get into too much here, but location is important. And again, as a big believer of collaboration, I think that you should kind of keep an eye out for anyone that maybe has a shop that's not doing so well, because 1 and 1 could actually equal 11, not just 2. So finding someone to team up with and possibly do a joint venture or merger of some sort is something to think about. Okay, we do have a comment from Claudia, who is our Colombian vapor here. It says, vaping is an uphill battle in Colombia. This is new to most, and I'm doing it one customer at a time. And Claudia, that's about all you can do, is one customer at a time. South America, Central America, smoking is part of their life, just like it is in Europe. And it just makes no logical sense at all. But unfortunately, the governments over there look at this as being different than smoking, not as condoned, not as available. But if we look at history, if we look at a snapshot of history, tobacco has been around for hundreds of years. I mean, hell, the Indians grew it before the Pilgrims got here. The Pilgrims brought tobacco from England that came from South America, and so tobacco has been around for a long time. Tobacco stores, smoke shops have been around for almost 100 years. And so, vaping is still the new kid on the block. If you could get into your DeLorean time machine and go back to the future, 20 years from now, we're going to see a different landscape. Don't know what it's going to look like. I'd love to think that I will be here, but we'll see. Okay, we have, okay, this is a clever idea. So one of our listeners tonight has a crush and quit jar. It says 25 cents off per cigarette. And so what they do, let's see, we find it helps them see what they are saving up front by quitting. Caleb, I'm gonna see if you are available to talk and have you explain this. Let me go ahead and find you here. All right, so Caleb, I just hear. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
All right, turn your microphone down just a little bit, if you would, so we don't get feedback. So you brought up a very interesting point about your crush and quit jar. I've never heard of that before, so tell us about it. I'm curious.
Okay, the crush and quit jar basically is they get to see, they get to crush them in front of us, and it's kind of a, you get to watch the joy on their face when they do it, because they know they're giving something up and they're starting a new chapter in their life, and people really enjoy that. Plus, new customers coming in see that jar full of broken up cigarettes sitting on our counter, and they ask, well, we get the same question 20 times a day. What's that about? When we tell them what it's about, man, they just jump right in and do the same thing. So it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And if anyone who's on the call right now has any comments or questions, by all means, just go ahead and share that. But that's a great idea, Cal. And so in the world of marketing, that's what they call the interrupt. Anything you can do to get people's attention, because people kind of operate in this haze where, business as usual, and they're just kind of moving on. And so, now when someone walks into your shop, they see that and they ask, what is that? And next thing you know, you have a conversation. So good for you, Caleb. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And where's your shop at, by the way, before we let you go?
Chillicothe, Ohio.
Ohio. Ohio is a surprisingly strong state. For as small as it is, fairly high in population, and I've got a couple of clients in Ohio and know a lot of people there. So thank you for being part of our workshop tonight, Caleb. Okay, so I went ahead and I muted his microphone. So again, there's always good ideas out there. Sometimes they're variations of an old idea. Another question came in: how much is too much or too little stock to hold at one time, especially in tanks and mods? That's a very difficult balancing act. And the problem with hardware is that manufacturers have a tendency to whimsically upgrade. And nothing's more infuriating than have something that is now obsolete 30 or 60 days after you bought it. So, there's a lot of things that you have to keep into account. And we're going to explore that in another workshop later on in the year when we talk about the right product mix, because understand the right product mix for your store might be different than the right product mix for another store, in the same state or on the other side of the country. Okay. One of the comments says, this is a community. We can all learn from one another. That's why these are great. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. The question comes in, what is a good business to partner with vaping? Cheryl, maybe I wasn't clear on that. when I say partner, I mean other shops. I mean other shops. I'm a big believer of collaboration, and you know, you might see a vape shop that's not doing that well. Sometimes it's not doing that well because of bad business practices or bad employees or bad location or whatever. So, you know, for those of you who are in the vaping retail space right now, there's going to be opportunities for you to, I hate to use the word take advantage of, but I'm going to say that you can take advantage of someone else's misfortunes, and be able to buy another location. So just kind of keep that in mind. And someone here who's on the call said, I'm going to set up a crush and quit jar. So Caleb, hopefully you haven't copywritten that and have to pay a royalty, but that's a great information. Okay. Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. Cheryl, one of our attendees here, is saying they have a wall of fame where they put the customers' pictures up when they have been off tobacco for 30 days. That is beautiful. What a great idea. You know, and again, people love to be recognized. Most people, not everyone, but I think that's an awesome idea. And you know, when someone quits, they say, you know, can I just take your picture? And you can, you know, because most of us have electronic monitors now, and probably have something on a rotation, you know, on a loop. You know, basically, when you have your rotation, pitching your store and pitching your products, you know, have a screen that says, you know, congratulations to who've been off for 30 days, 60 days. All right, so Cheryl Lindoff, I'm going to turn your microphone on. Cheryl, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't have a microphone.
I can hear you, actually, dear.
Oh, okay. I don't have an accent. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. So by popular demand, your audience and your followers want to know more about your wall of fame. So tell us about how that came about.
Well, it came about because a lot of our customers, when we very first started, which, by the way, just to say this, you were talking about the size of a business. My building, we own our building, and it's only 12 by 24. So we have like 238 feet, and we to 5 digits a month out of a 12 by 24 building.
Nice.
But what happened was people would come in and they would talk about quitting smoking. When we very first started, that was the big thing. The FDA regs hadn't come into it. We could talk about quitting smoking. We could talk about the health advantages at that time. And people would try it, and then they would kind of come back and go, well, I slipped and I got off cigarettes and stuff. And I thought, we need something to incentivize them to stay off of cigarettes. And so we decided, we had a wall in our shop that didn't have anything on it, and I said, why don't we just do a wall of fame and let them see that we're proud of them for stopping. So when someone would come in, and a lot of times if they were off for 30 days, they were very proud of it. They'd come in and they'd say, I've been off for 3 weeks and 10 days, or, you know, I mean, they were really excited about it. So we asked if we could put their pictures up there. Now, some people don't want their pictures up there, but most of them do, and they actually still come in the shop and look to see if their picture is still there.
Nice.
You know, they want it. And we have, if they get back on cigarettes, their picture comes off the wall. So we've had a couple that have come in and they're like, I slipped and got off of it. I'm like, well, you know, your picture has to come off the wall that you get back. And one of them, I took his picture off the wall. He said, why is my picture not there? I said, because you're dipping again. You're back on tobacco. And these
Whoa.
Do you know he all out to get his picture back on the wall?
Yeah.
I mean, that meant something to him, and it means something to most of them, because they come in the shop and they check to see if their picture's still up there, or they'll point to a friend, especially someone new coming in that's just quitting smoking. They'll look up there and go, I know them. They don't smoke anymore. I know them. They don't smoke, because we're a small community, so most people, you know each other, and it's incentive for them. Well, oh, my friend over here's quit. Well, now I know I can quit, you know. And so it's really worked out very well to watch their faces when they come in, and they're proud that they're up there, and they
Good
just.
for you. Good for you. Well, here's what's interesting about life, guys. It's easy to let ourselves off the hook. It's easy to make excuses for not going to the gym. It's easy to make excuses for not doing this, it's not doing that. But that's why I'm a big believer in accountability. And, you know, when I wrote my first book, I had an accountability buddy. And every week we had a call, and he made damn sure that I got my work done, because it's so easy for me to say, oh, I don't feel like writing today, just like you don't feel like doing whatever you don't want to do that day. So that's good. So now when people come to your shop, they feel they owe you. They feel that you are kind of like the person that they have to be responsible for, or responsible to. So that's an awesome place to be. And you know, you should even consider getting little buttons. You know, like a button that they can attach to the shirt that basically says 30 days smoke free, 60 days smoke free, 90 days smoke free. And you know, when on days 60 they come out and they exchange a 30-day button, then you get the old 30-day button back, and that way, you know, people can kind of show, oh, look, I've been smoke-free for 60 days. Oh, and I've been smoke-free for 90 days. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Cheryl, because, again, people love to feel part of a community.
My husband just reminded me of something. Some of our customers, they tell on each other.
Oh, yeah.
If they're bored and they've seen somebody smoke, they'll come in and they'll say, you know, he's smoking again. They know that if they're off, if they get back on tobacco, any form of it, they come off. Yeah. And so they will come in and tell me. Yeah. But I have to verify. I don't just take it.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, and you best not tell them who ratted them out, by the way, because next thing you know, you have a vaping war.
I'll just ask the person when they come in, I'll say, you know, little birdie said you might be back on tobacco. Have you smoked or dipped in such and such? Well, you can look at them. They'll be guilty. They'll tell me. They'll literally tell me if they did it. So it is an accountability thing, but you know what? It helps.
Absolutely.
It really makes a difference. It helps.
Absolutely.
As to my question about expanding my business, I'm not looking to partner with someone else. I'm expanding it and wanted to put additional products in my shop, and I wondered what would be a good product, like something else health oriented, like essential oils or something like that.
That's very tricky. I actually had that conversation earlier today with one of my clients up in Northern California, because they're developing an online site and they want to add some non-vape related products to it. It depends. It just has to be congruent with what vaping is. You can't, you know, I've seen a lot of shops that sell something totally different than vaping, and they offer vaping products, and it's a huge disconnect. So when it comes to offering other things, look, you're welcome to send me an email, Cheryl. I'm very, very generous with my time as far as responding to people's questions. Norm@vapementors.com. You know, keep me in the loop. Let me know what's going on, and hopefully you'll be part of our next workshop as well. All right?
Yes, please make sure I get an update like I did this time, an invitation or where, because I definitely want to be on these, all of them.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphone. Yeah, so those of you who are listening live and will be listening to this again, you'll get probably at least 3 reminders. You will get the initial invitation from VaporBeast. You will probably get a second invitation to also participate in their surveys. And then once you register, you will get notified by me, by Vape Mentors. So make sure that I'm not going into your spam basket. I was also reminded here by one of our attendees that the movie called A Billion Lives is now available on DVD. As a matter of fact, I just interviewed Aaron Biber, who is the director of that movie, and I'm going to have his radio interview posted next week. It's already Wednesday. It's already Thursday, so I was out of town back east for 3 days, so I will get that posted. But it's you know, it's a very, very interesting movie, and it talks about some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes to squash the vaping industry, and a lot of collusion and a lot of, you know, backrooms type of controversy. Well, enough of that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to be here with you as we talk about how to attract new customers, sponsored by VaporBeast. And again, this is not about me. It's not even about VaporBeast. It's about you. So we appreciate your participation. Share this with other friends all over the world who are in this industry, who can learn from some of these things. And if you want to listen to the last one, which was about trends, 60 days old, but still extraordinarily, you know, still active and current. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. And I thank you so much for participating, and we'll be talking to you on May 25, and have yourself a beautiful and blessed day. Goodbye.